So the dogs are out of the house today, and so I'm taking advantage of a little bit of the peace and quiet to record out here rather than sequestered in the den, which is where I will usually record from, because the chaos with two dogs running around the house is never going to make this easy. So enjoy the silence. I do love them, but I do also love having a little bit of a break from them from time to time. So let's do this. Welcome everyone to Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a craftivism podcast. My name is Gary. I am a knitter, I'm a crocheter. I am also a cyclist with AIDS Lifecycle, which is a 545-mile, 7-day annual bike ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles, which raises money for the life-saving work of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center. Thank you for joining me today. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I hope you will all enjoy this and like and subscribe and leave a comment if you are so moved to do so. I try to get back to everyone who leaves a comment and respond to those. So I really have had a great time over the last couple of episodes seeing the questions and comments that people have had. So please do that if you get a chance. As part of my fundraising for AIDS Lifecycle, last year I started a series of Knitalongs and Crochet Alongs that I call the End AIDS Knitalongs and Crochet Alongs to raise a little bit of extra money for my AIDS Lifecycle. And this year I also started D-Stash for Good, which is an online fiber auction, which raises money for AIDS Lifecycle as well. So we finished up the first D-Stash for Good auction earlier this month. It was a huge success by my measure. We raised just about $2,300 in that first auction. I tried to keep it small because I wasn't sure how it was going to go. So that blew me away. And I'm going to talk about the next one coming up here at the end of this episode. So appreciate everyone who participated in that. If you'd like to follow along the D-Stash for Good, that is a separate Instagram account. It's D-Stash for Good. You can follow me at GaryKnitsAndRides with underscores on between each word. On Instagram at Ravelry, I am GaryKnitsAndRides. And we have on Ravelry a group for the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. It is End AIDS KAL /CAL, where we show off our works in progress and what we're working on during each of the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. So this week we'll talk a little bit about what's been going on since my last episode in my life. We'll talk about the Knitalong and Crochetalong that just kicked off earlier this week. And I'll show you some whips and some FOs that I've been working on. And then I'll talk about a few craftivism opportunities that I've found that I thought were worth pointing out to folks. So let's get into it. The last couple of weeks have been pretty busy for us here. We wrapped up our Hollywood Bowl season. We actually have a couple of shows that we're going to miss, but we'll be going on vacation here shortly. So we're going to miss a couple of the final shows of the season, but we were able to wrap it up with a great show we saw Duran Duran at the Hollywood Bowl last Friday with fireworks. Unfortunately, it was the first time we have had rain in about 4 months. So we sat in the rain for 3 or 4 hours. The show was great. Simon Le Bon sounded great. The band sounded great. Nile Rodgers and Chic opened up for them, which was a surprise to me, which was fantastic. But it has been a long time since I sat in the rain for a concert. And it was fun for the first couple hours. And then by the end, I was very ready to just get back on the bus and head back home. But we had a great time. It was a great way to wrap up our Hollywood Bowl season. It's something that we really enjoy doing each summer. And they make it extremely easy for us to take a bus from a park nearby, so we don't have to deal with traffic or parking anyway, and I'm able to knit on the bus ride into Hollywood. So it's a great venue if you're ever in LA during the summer and you have a chance to see a show there. I highly recommend it. It's just a really special a special venue to see shows. So we were able to do that. We got together with some friends for Labor Day and had a little cookout in the midst of what has been a incredible heat wave for us here. I think we broke records for several days in a row here in the LA area, and finally it's cooled down after that rain came through. So we're glad for that. And then the other sort of news is we got our booster vaccines for the latest bivalent COVID booster and our flu shots. As I mentioned, we're headed out of town here in a little bit, and so we just wanted to be as protected as we could, since this will probably be the most interaction that we've had with groups of people for a while. So that's about all that's been going on outside of knitting, because the biggest thing that's been going on the last couple of weeks for me is kicking off the season 2 opener for the End AIDS Knitalongs and Crochet Alongs. So we cast on Monday the 12th. I'm posting this up on Friday I guess it's going to be the 16th. We cast on for the fall edition of the Knitalongs and Crochet Alongs on Monday. Last week I did some lives with the designers whose patterns we're working on and trying to get everyone excited. And then if you didn't catch my live on Monday on Cast On Day, I walked through all of the giveaways that we are going to be doing for this first round of the Knitalong and Crochet Along. We have some great prizes in 3 categories, so go back and check that out. I'll walk through the giveaway, how the giveaways work here in just a second, but I showed all the prizes that we'll be giving away. So this is fun stuff, and everyone who's knittling along gets a chance to win those just by posting your photos on Instagram or on the Ravelry group. So let's talk about the three sort of buckets and the 2 projects that we're going to be that we're working on. First, I wanted to talk about the Crochet Along. So we are going to be making the Sweet Shadow Wrap, which has been designed by Leigh Ann Parente. I'll post a picture of it up here. And it is a 5-color, or is designed as a 5-color fingering weight shawl, crocheted, and Seismic Yarn has put together this official AIDS Lifecycle kit for Leigh Ann's pattern. Ava from Seismic Yarn also has several other kits put together, but this is the official one that raises money for my AIDS Lifecycle fundraising. And I have yet to cast on. I had hoped to swatch and get this cast on before I was posting this episode, but it looks like it's gonna be a little bit delayed. Things have just been a little scrambled around here, getting everything kicked off. So I fell behind on all of my crafting stuff. But this is the kit that goes to AIDS Lifecycle. I think it's absolutely stunning. Go to Ava's page at Seismic Yarn and you can still pick up one of these and join us. There's still plenty of time to join the Knitalongs. We run them for 2 months, so it started on the 12th of September. It'll run through the 12th of November, so you have plenty of time to jump in and join us. But as always, with all of the Knitalongs and Crochet Alongs, if you want to stash dive and use your own yarn, that is fantastic, and I totally support you doing that. Proceeds from both pattern sales and yarn sales are donated to AIDS Lifecycle. So however you are joining, you're helping out my fundraising. So that is the Crochet Along. The pattern dropped last Friday, and Leigh Ann generously donated 100% of the proceeds of her individual pattern sales for that first weekend. And then on top of that, as a surprise to me, the pattern, which was part of a collection called the Sun and Fog collection, which also dropped on Friday. There are 9 patterns in that. It's $18. You can get that on Ravelry. But for all of the collection sales for that first weekend, anyone who bought the collection and emailed their receipt to Leigh Ann, she matched that donation back to AIDS Lifecycle, which was extremely generous of her. And as a result of all of you buying those patterns and buying the collection, we were able to raise $500 for my AIDS Lifecycle fundraising. So that's fantastic. I would say that this is by far the biggest crochet along that we've done to date. I started the crochet alongs late last year in the process and only was doing knit alongs for the first couple. And so it's been a little bit slow in growing. I'm not as plugged into the crochet world as I am to the knitting world. So I'm really excited that this one has really taken off. And so I hope we have a lot of folks joining and making the Sweet Shadow wrap. And I look forward to seeing all of the pictures that you all post of that, either using Avis yarn or whatever you found in your stash. So that's the Crochet Along. For the Knit Along, we are making the It's Somewhere KAL and hat set by Fatima Hines, aka Disturbing the Fleece on Instagram. This is the hat. I did this up as a sample when we first announced the collaboration. It is, as you can see, a cabled hat, and the KAL matches it. It's basically the pattern turned sideways. This is knit up in Twisted Ambitions yarn, a DK weight yarn. 1 skein for the hat, 2 skeins for the KAL. This is Ross's color Sedona. He put together 3 colors for the knit along. So the Sedona was the orange. There is a beautiful turquoise, semi-solid, much less variegated than this, called Caribbean. And then there's a pink speckled called Flamingo, which is going to be absolutely fantastic in this hat and KAL. So I finished the hat early, so I'll get to show you my cast on, but I did cast on for the KAL, and we'll hopefully get that finished before the end of the knit along. I've got several other projects as you will see, and it's going to be a holiday gift for someone, so I have a little extra time to get that done. But I thoroughly enjoyed that hat. It's a very fast knit, and so I'm looking forward to working on the KAL as well. So that's the It's Winter Somewhere hat and KAL set from Fatima. Both of those patterns, as well as Leigh Ann's Sweet Shadow wrap, are available on Ravelry. So if you haven't had a chance to pick them up yet, please go do that and join us in the Knit Along and the Crochet Along. I said there are 3 buckets, and there is a third way you can join the Knit Along and Crochet Along by working on something completely different. If you buy either of the patterns or any of the yarn kits and email me or DM me the receipts on Instagram, I will add you into what I'm calling the Wildcard Division, and that will allow you to participate in the giveaways, join in the fun, help my fundraising for the AIDS Lifecycle, but allow you to work on whatever project you want to work on. So you could work on your Stephen West mystery knit along, your Hohi Locatelli knit along, anything that you've got going on in your whip pile, and still participate with us. So you can do that by buying either the patterns or any of the yarn kits and letting me know that you've made those purchases, or you can go directly to my coffee page. There's a little golden ticket that is the Wildcard Division entry ticket. It's $12. You can enter that way, and then I'll have a record of it, and I'm keeping track of all of those entries. I'm really excited. This was the first time we've tried something like this. We've got over 25 people already signed up for the Wildcard Division. I'm already seeing people's cast-ons for that. So there's some sweaters, some other KALs going on. So it's really exciting to see the different kind of projects. It's actually introducing me to a lot of new patterns that I didn't know anything about. So that's a fun part of this that I hadn't anticipated. So feel free to join us with any of your projects that you're working on by joining the Wildcard Division. And as I said, you'll be entered into all of the giveaways along the way in a separate bucket. Just tag your photos with either the hashtag for the knit along, which I'll put here, or for the Crochet Along, which I'll also put here. And I'll keep track of the fact that you're a wildcard entry and get you entered into those giveaways. So speaking of the giveaways, I mentioned before on my live this last week, I walked through all of those. But the first round of giveaways, the cast-on giveaway, will wrap up on the 19th. So it's this first week of the Knit Along and Crochet Along. I'll tally up all those entries, and then the first giveaways will go out, will be awarded following the 19th. And the first rounds of giveaways are all little project bags with some notions and things inside of those. So you can go back and watch my live and see those. But that's the first round. The second round will be the halftime giveaway. So that'll go middle of October, probably around the 12th of October will be the cutoff for that. But just keep posting your photos with the hashtags or in the Ravelry group. Every post is an entry. So the more posts you post, the more entries you get. And then we'll have more giveaways towards the end of the Knit Along, Crochet Along, with the grand prize at the very end. I did mention that for the Crochet Along, due to Leigh Ann's generosity, we were able to raise $500 right off the bat for the AIDS Lifecycle. I just wanted to give a little update on my total fundraising. So my long-term goal for AIDS Lifecycle, which started when I did my first ride back in 2019, or my first AIDS Lifecycle out here in California in 2019. And on a later episode, I'm gonna walk through my kind of history with these cycling events, which goes back over 20 years now. But my first ride was out here in California was 2019. And after I did that first ride, I sort of set a long-term goal of raising $200,000 for these two charities. And I figured it would take me probably 10 or 11 years to get that done. I'm a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. I've raised just under $100,000 in my first 4 years of doing the ride. So this will be my 5th year. And I've set a goal for this year of raising $32,000. So I haven't sent out any of my normal fundraising letters. We've just barely kicked off the first Knitalong Crochet Along, and we've done the first auction, but I've already raised $5,000, which is way more than I've raised at this point in the process in any of the previous years. So I feel really good about the trajectory and the momentum that we have going into the 2023 AIDS Lifecycle. So thank you all for everything that you've done to make that happen, and here's hoping that we continue this momentum going forward. So that's just a little bit on the fundraising update and where we are in the Knitalong and the Crochet Along. I thought we could talk a little bit about knitting right now. First thing I wanted to talk about, because I went through a lot of options on the last episode for the Stephen West Mystery Knitalong, which I think he had just announced it like the day, I think maybe the day I recorded the last episode. And so I'd frantically gone through my stash trying to find yarn to work. And I got so much feedback from viewers from that last episode on which ones of the combinations people really liked. And I had some conversations with on our Zoom. So I should have mentioned when I was talking about the knitting, the Crochet Along Knitalong, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we do a Zoom chat for, I don't know, an hour and a half or so for participants in the Knitalong and the Crochet Along. It's very low-key and casual. Valerie of Creations by Valerie has generously donated up her Zoom account for that Zoom chat. And it's just a great way for us to put faces with Instagram handles and see what we're working on and show off our progress on the Knitalong Crochet Along. So I hope you'll join one of those. We do it every Tuesday, and I think at some point during the each of the Knitalongs and Crochet Alongs this year, I'm going to try to figure out a Saturday or Sunday where I can also do that for folks who might not be able to join in the middle of the week because of kids and families and whatnot. So we've been talking about the Mystery Knitalong a lot on the Zoom, and everyone's showing off potential palettes. And through that process and just kind of spending time with the yarns, I know I've come down to a final decision on the yarns that I'm going to use. And it actually is not one of the combinations I showed on the last episode. So I found, it was all kind of down to the accent color. I'd sort of decided on the two main colors. And I found a new accent color that is a little outside of a color I would normally work with, but I think it's going to work out really, really well. So let me show you what I got. For the two main colors, you all may remember, I've caked everything up. This is Brujeria Lana, and I'm going to forget the name of the color, but it is that's pretty true to color. It's sort of a gray, brown, olive. I mean, now that it's all caked up, I would say maybe dark olive is how it's reading. But there's definitely some much darker parts to it and then some lighter parts to it. So it's pretty variegated, but it's really reading a lot more olive in the light here today than I think maybe it did on the last one. But it is a very, very dark neutral color. So we're going moody and not bright for this one. For the contrast color, is a color called Novel Pages from Tyler at Thought to Thread. And what I didn't realize when I first picked out that yarn was that it has 20% mohair in it. So it has this really, really nice halo to it, which I think is going to add some cool texture to the shawl. And I'm going to talk in a minute. I come up with some potential mohair options. I know from last year, Stephen West said, had a Mohair Dare to like throw in mohair at a certain areas of the make along, and so I picked out some mohair that I thought would work with the Brujeria Lana, only to hear from someone else that he was suggesting if you're going to do mohair, maybe do it with the third color, which is the accent color. So these are the two main colors. I think definitely got the contrast, and I think they work well together. The other thing about Tyler's the novel pages that I realized as I was caking it up is there is some very slight variegation in it as well. So it reads as just almost like a very solid off-white, but there's some really pale gray strips in there as well, which I think works well with the darker one. So for the third color, I have this, which is Leigh Garçon from his Dark Materials club from, was that last year or 2 years ago? The color is Lyra's Jordan, and it is as you can see, a very deep, rich red burgundy, but also, much like the Brujeria Lana, has a lot of variation and some really, really dark sections, as well as the main color. So very moody, very autumnal, I think. But I think they work really well together. It's like I said, I don't really use a lot of reds and burgundies. If you saw my live that I did with the winner of my Shop My Stash giveaway, there's a decided lack of oranges and reds in my stash. There are a lot of blues and grays, which are colors that I tend toward in terms of what I wear, and so I have a lot of those in my stash as well. But I think these work well together. I think it's going to be fun. I'm really excited for the cast on. It'll come after I'm back from vacation. I won't cast on until I'm back from vacation, and that will carry me through the month of November. So that gives me a couple more weeks of working on my other whips to try to get some things finished and make some good progress in the Knitalong and Crochet Along stuff before we get into the mystery Knitalong. So I said I had picked out a couple of things for potential Mohair Dares. In a mystery grab bag from Magpie Fibers, I got this. It's their feather base, 70% mohair, 30% silk. Definitely has the olives and browns. I think it works really well. Let me see if I can get, there we go. Works well with this. But if the goal is to use the mohair with the accent color, so with the Lyra's Jordan, I did find this skein in my stash from Yarnaceous Fibers. It actually works really well because, I don't know if you can see in there, but there are some really dark olivey and gray bits, and it obviously works really well with the burgundy. I think it takes it in a direction that's a little bit different than where I was thinking we were going. So it definitely takes it in a more sort of pink direction, and so I'm not 100% sure I want to use that. And so what I'm thinking is, hopefully there will be some opportunities for yarn shopping on my trip, and I may I don't need to buy any more yarn as we've established, but I think that maybe if I can find a mohair that is more in the moody burgundy darker colors, that might be the way to go. So I'll look for that, and maybe I can find that on the trip and make that my Mohair Dare if we get to that point in the mystery Knitalong. So that's it for Stephen West. I thought I'd do that before we got into actual whips and FO, since I'd spent so much time on that during the last episode. In terms of FO, I actually have one. Unfortunately, I have already given it away. I'm going to post a picture of it here, or maybe I'll do it. over here. It is called the Swirl Hat. I think I mentioned last time a friend of mine who has gone through a bout of brain cancer and some radiation, and had asked me to make her a couple of hats while she waits for some of her hair to grow back in. And so I first did Fatima Hines's Not Too Tart hat, which she absolutely loved. And the second one I wanted to make was the Swirl Hat. So that's the picture of the Swirl Hat. It's a hat I've made several times as a baby hat, but I'd never made an adult size of it. And I used this yarn, which is the Wanderflock's fingering in navy. And I absolutely fell in love with this yarn. First of all, it's one of the softest fingering weight yarns that I've felt. It's extremely soft. But the color, when it's in a skein, it's very variegated. So there's lots of light, almost looks like white bits in it. But when it knits up, it really, to me, kind of looks like washed denim. And that's something that I'm always looking for a great navy. And I had never thought about using this for a sweater, but after seeing it knit up in that hat, I think that I may need to watch out for when Geraldine from Wanderflock puts this back up on her website, and grab a sweater quantity of that for a future sweater, because it really has that sort of washed out, not faded, but just sort of kind of stone-washed denim feel to it when it was knit up, and I really loved how the fabric came together. So Wanderflock Swirl Hat, that was my only FO since last we spoke, but I have several whips, and then more on the way. So the first whip is, and I'm very excited about this, is the Lacey Shawl. It's living in my Loteria bag from Knitting Tree LA, which actually is the grand prize for the fall Knitalong. So someone will win one of these. Annette from Knitting Tree LA, which is my local yarn store, makes these up, and I absolutely love it. And every time I show it, someone asks me, where did I get it? So that's where it came from. And and I saw in the shop recently that she had another one made, and so I just grabbed it, and that's going to be the grand prize. So the Lacey Shawl, this is Tunisian crochet. Steph made that, is the designer, and he is running this as a crochet along with radical threads. And so we're just up to the first. They're splitting it up into 3 or 4 sections. The first section ends, sorry, I'm holding it backwards so you can't see the right side. The 15th, so just day after tomorrow. And, or maybe that's tomorrow. But anyway, so I've got one more repeat of the stripes to do until I move on to the main section of the shawl. So it's this boomerang. It's hard to see the curve, but it has a pretty sharp kind of curly Q thing at the end. It's not going to be a straight triangle. And this is my first real Tunisian crochet project. I've done a dish rag before, but I took a class at Stitches West last year, and this is the first time I'm putting that to use. So I'm really enjoying how it's coming together. It is slow going for me, as any new skill is. The yarn that I am using, so the green is from Magpie Fibers in their solo fingering base. The colorway is Tactical. And this is actually leftover yarn from my Stephen West make-along, mystery knit-along from last year, my shawlography. Then the main body of it, so we're about to end this stripe section, and it's going to go into a really big section with mainly this open mesh pattern for the main body of it. It's going to use the rest of this entire skein. So that color is from, sorry, my cake is really messy, but this is Feisty Fibers out of Canada. It is on their Swanky base, which is their fingering base, and the color is Spite. So all these great grays and rusts, which I think work really well with the olive. And then the final piece at the final end of the, did I not put it in here? I guess I didn't. At the final end of the, oh, here it is. At the final end of the shawl, you go through another stripe section, and then it ends with a color pop. And this is what I'm using for that. It is a mini from Zakami Yarns. It was part of a yarn bouquet that my sister gave me for Christmas last year. And they just had this great rust color, which obviously, you know, I think works great there. And I'm really excited to get this done as we head into fall, because it's going to be perfect fall colors. So that is the Lacey Shawl. The Crochet Along is running, I don't know the end date of it actually. It just started a couple weeks ago, but you can find out all the details on Steph's Instagram page at Steph Made That, or on the Radical Threads website and blog. And I'm really enjoying that project. So my other whip that is farthest along, or furthest along, I don't know which it is my Pure Joy from Locatelli. It's living in my beautiful sister camo bag. And I had really, really wanted to get this finished before I headed out of town. I'm so close. It's not in a great spot to show it. But anyway, I've gotten to the final wedge, and I'm only about 10 rows left to finish it and get bound off. Unfortunately, the rows get longer and longer and longer as you go, so each one's taking a little bit longer than I had expected. I doubt I'm gonna get it finished, just because I'm gonna start scrambling around soon to get packing and stuff. So this may be a first airplane leg wrap-up project, and I will still have it to wear on vacation because it's gonna be a little bit chillier, but it's not gonna actually be finished by the time I get on the plane, I do not think. Anyway, I've loved the project. It's really fun, easy to memorize, nothing difficult about it, but I think it's a good bang for your buck project. Using Treehouse yarns, or Treehouse knits yarns. Lauren at Treehouse Knits from her Coco collection. So the variegated here is Marigold Bridge, and the slubby yarn is Underworld in the slubby base. And it's really the first time I've worked with a slubby yarn, and I'm really loving the texture that now they've gotten to the big wedge of the navy. I'm loving how that's working out. So I think this is gonna be a great project. Very lightweight shawl, and so I think it's, you know, kind of perfect for Southern California. So that is Pure Joy, Locatelli. Hopefully we'll be an FO the next time we speak. If it's not, something has gone terribly wrong along the way, because like I said, I only have about 10 rows left to do on that. The other thing that I have started is my KAL, and it's not even hardly worth holding up, but this is it's Winter Somewhere KAL for Knitalong. Also doing this again in Twisted Ambition Yarns, Sedona in his Wicked DK base from Ross. So it'll take two skeins of this to finish up this KAL, and I've just cast on and gotten through the first round and set up for the pattern. So I'm not taking this with me on vacation. I just think the cabling and the concentration that would require is probably not a great mix for, you know, just kind of picking up and going when I have a few extra minutes, or you know, on planes and in cars. So that will wait for me, and we'll be ready to jump back into that when I get back. I am taking my Sweet Shadow wrap, so I will be taking these with me as a crochet project. So I'll have the Lacey Shawl, Tunisian crochet. I'll have the Sweet Shadow wrap crochet project with me. And I probably don't need to take another project, but I thought, maybe I should have something knitting if I get sort of burned out on crocheting or frustrated, because I'm not as strong a crocheter as I am a knitter. So what I have decided, I think, to do is to take this yarn, so Knit Picks Mighty Stitch Bulky Weight, which I just don't even know how it ended up in the stash, or what it was ever purchased for originally. It probably was one of those, they were having a great sale and I decided I couldn't pass it up. But what I'm gonna do with that is I'm going to make this Malibu bulky mock cable hat. I think it's a free pattern on Ravelry. Kate Wise is the designer. And I mentioned on my last episode, one of the craftivism opportunities that I talked about was Warm the Line, which is an organization that collects cold weather items, so hats and scarves and mitts for voters who are going to be forced to stand in long lines on election day because of voter suppression tactics in swing states to try to keep them from voting. So we want to keep them in the line to make sure that their votes are cast and their voices are heard. So Warm the Line is an organization that collects handmade items to distribute to voters so they can stay warm in the line to vote. And so I thought, given that green is also the color for reproductive rights and reproductive justice, I thought the green worked out well. So I'm going to make that that mock cable hat and send it off when I get back from vacation to Warm the Line to get it into someone's hands before the midterms. So that'll be fun. It's a new pattern for me, and I'm looking forward to trying out these mock cables, which I don't think ever done. So that'll be fun. So that's not quite a whip, but it's definitely going with me in my carry-on bag to work on. So those are all of the things that I've currently got either on the needles or about to get on the needles. And like I said, I hope to have made some great progress on the Sweet Shadow wrap by the time we get back together, and hopefully have that pure joy completely wrapped up and have been able to post some pictures of me wearing it on my journeys. So that's all I've got going on in that regard. Not much going on in terms of acquisitions or what I call heart mail, which are donations for giveaways. But I did have one that I wanted to share, which was extremely generous. Keating from Rainbow Peak Yarns sent me this gorgeous rainbow set, which was originally designed for our Pride Crochet Along last year. So we worked on a shawl, which I still have mine to finish, which maybe I'll show next time as well if I can make some progress on that. But it's the Ellie Rue shawl from Shelby Shea's Stitches. And Rainbow Peak Yarns had put together one of the kits for that. This is called the Rainbow Road kit. So it's this really dark blue with some purple and teal. It's hard to see through the plastic and I don't want to crinkle it to open it up, but there you can kind of see some of the teal highlights in there. And then the 50 skein minis or half skeins for the accent colors. And you go to the Rainbow Peak Yarns Instagram account, and Keating has posted photos of the one that she worked on during the Crochet Along last year. It looks fantastic. So I really am excited to be able to give this away. May wait and hold this one since it is rainbow themed. May hold this for the Pride Knitalong and Crochet Along later in June of 2023, but we'll see. But thank you Rainbow Peak Yarns for donating this as a giveaway prize for the Knitalongs and Crochet Alongs. In terms of other acquisitions, like I said, it's been pretty quiet. There's going to be a lot coming in the next couple months because I've got my Stranger Things stuff from Treehouse coming, as well as I think the Beetlejuice countdown calendar from Treehouse. So there is certainly some more yarn coming soon. But the thing that I did have, which actually also ties in to moving on to talk a little bit about some craftivism opportunities, was I got my Keep Your Filthy Paws Off My Silky Draws colorway from Lola Bean Yarn Co. So Adela had put this up, I don't know, 6 weeks ago or so as a fundraising colorway. And so this, which is this really great pink with really some dark gray, almost black speckles in places. This was a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. So after the Roe decision came down, she put this up as a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. I picked up 3 skeins in her Otable Bean base, which is her Aran weight yarn, and I am going to be turning this in to a Lamia shawl, which is a pattern from TL Yarn Crafts, Tunisian crochet pattern from TL Yarn Crafts. And at some point, I don't know when, this is what I'm going to make that with this, and it will become a gift for my sister, because my sister loves everything pink, and so anytime I have a chance to make something in pink, it usually ends up in her hands. And plus she's in a colder climate than I am, so she'll get a lot more use out of an Aran weight shawl than I would. So, but as I mentioned, it does sort of segue into talking about craftivism. So obviously this was a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. Adela is amazing about always having kind of a cause of the quarter, doing fundraising skeins of yarn, and always giving back to the community in really the most amazing ways, in addition to supporting people like myself who are doing things in the community, supporting other dyers as well. So she is, in addition to this one, which you can't buy anymore, it was sold out. Who knows, she may bring it back. But I do know a lot of you are going to Rhinebeck in the next coming weeks, and she is teaming up once again with CC of CC Wools in her booth at Rhinebeck, and has a colorway called Leaf Voter Suppression Behind. I don't have a picture of it because I couldn't find one. She did it last year with CC, and I think she may have sold some of it elsewhere as well, but we'll definitely have some in CC's booth at Rhinebeck this year. It is a colorway that portions of proceeds of the sales of which go to Stacey Abrams' organization Fair Fight, which fights voter suppression efforts around the country. I believe that a portion of either that colorway or some other colorway is also going to be donated directly to Stacey Abrams' gubernatorial campaign in Georgia, which is a tough fight. I think we do have a shot at winning that, as Georgia has slowly turned a little bluer in recent years. And it's a very important state this year in the election, because not only do we have the gubernatorial race there, a Senate race that we need to hold on to, but it is sort of ground zero for voter suppression tactics and the potential for free and fair elections to no longer exist in certain places in the country. So it's a very important state in terms of races. So if you are going to Rhinebeck, please check out CC Wool's booth and try to pick up a skein or two of Leaf Voter Suppression Behind. It's Leaf because I think it's very autumnal, the colorway, if I remember it correctly. Not too dissimilar from the Spite that I showed from Feisty Fibers that I'm using in my Lacey Shawl. So a great autumn color, a great cause. So check that out if you are going up to New York, Sheep and Wool. And I'm super jealous. One of these days I will make the trip. Hopefully next year. This year this trip that we're going on has been 3 years coming. We've planned it for 3 consecutive years. The first 2 years got canceled because of COVID. So we're fingers crossed nothing's going to happen between now and the next few days that waylays it, but couldn't make it to New York Ship and Wool this year. But one of these days I will. The other things that I wanted to mention, first, many of you saw over the last couple of weeks the post from Teresa at Beyond Yarn, which is a local yarn store in, I believe, Union, New Jersey, somewhere in New Jersey, but Union, I think, is where it is. And she received some very ugly, racist hate mail in the mail, and as a result, which it got spread around Instagram, and a lot of people rose up to help support her and just sort of show their support for her. I wanted to highlight that again. She has a GoFundMe up. All of everything I mentioned, all the yarn dyers and everything that I've mentioned will be listed and linked in the show notes below, including a link to the GoFundMe for Beyond Yarn. So that was posted, but I also just wanted to mention, not only could you support her directly that way, purchasing yarn from her website. She has an online shop, and then there was a business shower. So this is a sort of side idea. So Laverne, who you may know from Busy Peach Yarn, so she does fantastic cotton and tencel yarn. She's based in Georgia. Her yarn company is called Busy Peach, BZY Peach. She came up with this idea that she calls busy showers. And basically it is a way to nurture and support new and emerging Black-owned fiber businesses by running essentially the equivalent of like a baby shower, but for a new business. And so they put together a registry that lists items that they could really use help purchasing to help grow their business or establish their business. So Beyond Yarns had one of these busy showers over the past year. So you can still go to the Busy Showers Instagram page and see, look for the Beyond Yarn post, and then you can get a link to her registry. So there are still some things that she is looking for her business to help grow that business. So that's another way that you can help Beyond Yarns. But I also just wanted to make you aware of Busy Showers, so you can follow Busy Showers and see when they have their next event for a new business. So they have the next one's coming up on the 24th of September. It is for a yarn shop that's just kicking off in Cincinnati called Make Do. Jennifer is the owner of that yarn shop, and so I think they do a live, and she can walk you through the shop and what her plans are for it. And then there's also going to be a link where you can help her out through her registry to help support that new business. And it's incredibly important because I think Black entrepreneurs do not have necessarily the same opportunities to access capital and wealth to grow their business that a lot of other folks do. And loans, especially now, are incredibly difficult to come by. So I think that any way that we can kind of help get these businesses going and then support them in their infancies is incredibly helpful to give them the momentum that they need to succeed going forward. So check out Busy Showers. I think it's a fantastic program that Laverne's put together. Check out Busy Peach if you don't already follow her, because she has some extremely beautiful plant-based yarn, and hopefully one of these days maybe we can use some of that in a Knitalong or Crochet Along project. But I just wanted to bring both of those things to your attention. The final craftivism idea that I wanted to highlight is Lady Di Yarns. So most of you know Diane from Lady Di Yarns through her yarn and all of her clubs and sort of pop culture things that she does, whether it's Schitt's Creek or the Fifth Element she just did this year, Rangers of the Lost Ark. She has all kinds of fun pop culture clubs and kits that she puts together. But one of the things she's started doing just here in the last few months are these craftivism nights, where she brings together a group of speakers to talk about a particular issue in the yarn world or outside of the yarn world that just could use some more attention and discussion. So she has the next one of her craftivism craft nights coming up. It is going to be on the 17th, so just a few days away, at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is going to be a discussion about the 2019 conversation that happened in the fiber industry around race and diversity and inclusion and equity, and kind of where we are today relative to that conversation that happened in 2009, what progresses have been made, where work needs to continue to happen. So she's put together a panel to talk about that. I think it'll be a really interesting discussion. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it because I'll be on the road. But she also has 3 or 4 more of these events planned over the coming months. If you go to her website, you can find a list of those. I think there's going to be one around gun safety, and one around feminism and intersectionality, and then one, I think, the night before the midterms, or actually before Election Day, just talking about what's at stake in the midterm elections. So check out Lady Di Yarns, what Diane is doing in terms of building discussions within this community. I think it's really important. She's put together some great panelists, so I think it's worth an hour and a half or so of your time to sit down and see what's going on there. So those are the 4 craftivism ideas that I had for this episode. I hope you will be able to check them out. Again, all of the Links to everything are in the show notes below. And I think that about wraps it up for me this time. Because of travel in 2 weeks' time, I won't be able to record an episode. So the next episode will probably go up on the 7th of October. So I hope you will tune in for that. We will, I think at that point, be maybe 3 or 4 days into the Stephen West Mystery Knit-Along. We'll be approaching the halfway point of the End AIDS Knit-Alongs and Crochet Along, so we'll have a lot to discuss. And hopefully I can, talk a little bit about my trip and what we saw and what we ate. And then talk about how much progress I've made on my projects. The other thing I will mention, and I said I was going to do this up front, is the next D-Stash for Good auction. So I am planning to open up listings for that on the 24th of October. And I'll keep the listings open for probably about a week, maybe not a full week, but 5 or 6 days at least, to try to give people a chance to get those listings in. So look for that announcement on the D-Stash for Good Instagram account. And there will be a link then to fill out a form to send in the pictures and your listings for that. It's a pretty smooth process, or at least it was the first time around. There weren't too many issues around it. So I'll gather those up for about a week, start to get them posted, and the plan is then to run that auction from the 2nd of November to the 11th of November. I have to look specifically at the calendars and make sure I'm giving enough weekend time in there for bidding, so that we can get those all wrapped up and people can get their D-Stash items sent out to folks before we get into the Thanksgiving holiday. So we're going to run it for 2 weeks. I'm not going to limit it this time in terms of quantities unless I think it gets crazy. But we ran about 70 items last time, and that seemed to work pretty well. It was manageable on my end, and raised $2,300. So I'm hoping we grow that a little bit and can raise a similar amount of money this next time, and really get this fundraising off to a great start for AIDS Lifecycle this year. So thank you again for joining me. Hope you can like and subscribe, post your comments below, let me know what you're working on, let me know what colors you picked out for your Stephen West Mystery Knit-Along, and I will see you in about 3 weeks. All right, thanks.